Welcome to the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast with your host, two-time defending ATV motocross national champion, Cody Jansen.
Am I on air? What's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, and welcome to episode 61 of the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast, our Briarcliff season finale preview show presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, available for purchase today at shop.csttires.com. As promised, we're going to go over all the storylines you need to know about heading into the finale on this episode. We'll cover all the points battles to watch on race day, records that may be broken, and much more, and I think this will really help you enjoy the racing to its fullest potential. None other than RipitupFilms himself, Gloop Mahey, will join us shortly to share his opinions and ensure we preview all the topics that you need to know. In the second segment block, Briarcliff owner Jeremy Osborn himself will stop by. It's been 7 years since Briarcliff hosted their first and only ATV National, and as an ATV enthusiast himself, Jeremy will tell us about their journey to earn another opportunity, everything that he has planned to make this event extra special, the ladies of ATV motocross, and more. You won't want to miss that conversation, especially if you're heading to Ohio. Finally, we'll conclude this episode with Nick Gennusa's right-hand man, Mike Daniele, to cover topics ranging from Nick Gennusa's season to what's at stake at Briarcliff and, drumroll please, motocross-friendly life insurance. Yeah, you heard that right. I perked up the first time I heard it as well, and you will too. So stay tuned for that conversation about integrated financial concepts Safe2Race and Safe2Ride program later in the episode. Major thanks to our sponsors who are all on board with us tonight. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Their clippers rock. Their nose hair trimmer is amazing, and they have brand new industry-leading products that just hit the market as well. Full disclosure, the new Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped is my secret to keeping a perfect beard. This new electric trimmer is so nice that I've only been using it on my facial hair. Shh. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner. Get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner on our website to help us out. By accessing Rocky Mountain from our specific link, we get a percentage of that, and we both know you need parts and gear, so this is the easiest way to help us out. Just use our link instead of the standard Rocky Mountain link, and you're supporting Digging Deep, which we greatly appreciate. No matter what off-road gear or parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATV MC has you covered. So before you buy, click that Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner on our website to help us out in a major way. And again, we can't thank you enough for that. We have one new donor to shout out this week. Shout out to Holly Trimble and the Trimble family. Holly, Dave, India, and Talon. This is a ATV racing family through and through. A staple of the ATV Nationals. They so graciously sent over a donation to support what we're doing here at Digging Deep, which I'm forever grateful for. And as we continue to grow and expand, the hope is that riders like India and Talon will benefit from the added coverage that we are bringing to the world of ATV motocross. So thanks so very much to Holly Trimble and the Trimble family. For anyone else who's interested, you can find the Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Again, for anybody else that is interested in donating, thanks so much, guys. One last note before we dig into another great episode here. This can count as our Impact Solutions Impact moment this week. We were just at Loretta Lynn's for the penultimate round of the 2021 season, and since we left, since our last episode was released, actually, tragedy struck. This past Saturday, August 21st, the small community of Waverly awakened to severe weather, which before day's end would result in more than 17 inches of rainfall. This unprecedented event led to a tragic day for the citizens of Waverly, marked by severe flooding that left a path of death, injury, and destruction unwitnessed before in the history of Central Tennessee. In a matter of hours, the lives of every resident of the community of Waverly would be adversely impacted, with more than 20 deaths and an equal number of residents still missing. Each summer over the past 40 years, Waverly has been a welcoming host to the sport of motocross, and hundreds of its local residents have worked at the event in nearly every capacity possible, from track crew to flaggers, waste management, security, parking and welcome center, and many, many more positions. For 3 generations of racers and their families, for a couple of weeks each summer, Loretta Lynn's Ranch became something like a second home for many of us, a special place where childhood dreams came true. Now, as the citizens of Waverly face the greatest challenges of their lives and seek to find the formula for the recovery of their community, our community of motocross and off-road racers has the opportunity to repay the kindness and support that the Waverly community has shown to us for nearly a half century. A place where memories are made, dreams come to reality, and a community comes together. It's time that we come together for them. You may have heard of Racers for Waverly, and Racers for Waverly will benefit members of the Waverly community as a whole, including local residents who have been actively engaged with the event. For more information on how you can help, head over to roadtorecovery.com now. Now, the 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys, pumped to get this guy back on to talk a little ATV motocross. You watch his videos each and every week, and he spends more time around the sport's top riders than just about anybody else. Brought to you by our friends at Rocky Mountain ATV MC, your one-stop shop for parts, gear, and everything in between to make your ride the best ride. Click the Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com today for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. Rip It Up Films himself. Say hello to Mr. Gloop Mahey. Gloop, what's up, man? Welcome back. It's been a minute.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, and I'm excited for this last round. I'm glad you had me on before we head there. We haven't been there in a while, so it's going to be a cool show.
Yeah, I wanted to do a preview show just to touch on all the storylines so everybody knew kind of what to watch for at the finale there. It's been such an exciting season. And man, last time we talked to you, it was right before and after Daytona. We had you on the preview and the review show for Daytona, which seems like so long ago at this point. Feels like so much has changed, honestly. I know Chad won the opener there, but Joel was going so fast. He looked damn near unstoppable on the new Yamaha. Nick Gennusa and Wesley Wolf were the 2 other guys on the podium there that joined Chad on the podium at the opener. And like I said, it feels like a lifetime ago, particularly with how things have gone since then. I joked on the last episode that you'd think we'd have a handle on it by now, but there's really no predicting these races at this point, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely been like that 3rd spot's always up for grabs. And I think it's really exciting to see that you really don't know who's going to take that spot. Obviously, I'm not taking away 2nd and 1st from anyone, but we always had Thomas with, we knew somehow he's going to squeeze in there. So,
right. Exactly. And I mean, you always have those trolls on the internet or whatever, but I truly believe this has been like the most unpredictable season that we've seen in ATV motocross, maybe as long as like you've been shooting. I don't know. You tell me, but just the fact that we go to the races not knowing exactly what's going to happen every weekend, whether it's that battle for 1st and 2nd, that battle for that 3rd podium spot, and so on and so forth, all the way back. It's been as unpredictable as I can remember it ever being.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going to happen each race. It is exciting, and you're right. Like, there hasn't been a season in a long time that there's a lot, like, you don't know. There's really no way to predict it at this point. We know the top 2, those guys, they get out ahead, and we know they're going to be somewhere unless mistakes are made. But that 3rd spot is really, like, it's exciting to watch this year.
Exactly. Pal, I really appreciate you making some time for us, especially on short notice. You were a late addition. But I know the reason why I probably don't ask you to come on like on the reviews too often is I know how slammed you are after the races, just after some of the conversations you and I have had over the years, from all the shooting at the track to all the editing, the highlight videos you do for the series, the TV show stuff in years past, the ride, of course, that you do with RipitupFilms, all your customer work and more. I can't even imagine, but I've always wanted to ask how you manage all that and all that goes into it. So why don't you take me through the whole spiel? What is your life like following a race weekend? It has to be about as crazy as life gets.
Usually I'm pretty exhausted on Monday, the solo drive home. I've been taking Ian Howell's my other shooter this year. He doesn't drive much, but at least I have someone to ride with. He rode with me a couple rounds, but exhausted on Monday, sit there and I put about 6 or 7 cards worth of footage on a computer. Usually ends up being about 400 to 600 gigs of footage. And then I organize it. And it's no joke. It's easily 5 to 8 hours of just organizing. And the reason I do that is so I can go back in at any time and someone can say, I want this from this round of this year, and I can go in and grab it. And it just helps me later on in life when, you know, Yamaha needs something or one of these bigger companies needs some random stuff from years ago. So that's funny. I was actually looking at Briarcliff today, 2014, and I'm like, wow, I still organize pretty much the same way, and I could find any rider I wanted to. So I thought that was pretty cool. So anyways, organizing, that's the first thing I do. Tuesday, I try to kind of just like not do too much on Monday editing wise. I do a couple of the raw videos for the guys I do stuff with. Try to keep the social media stuff like something out right away, you know, just something easy to make a GoPro video or whole shots or stuff for this series just to have something up. Tuesday is the highlight show for the series. So I do that. Don't like in years past, I put a lot of time into it. And then as soon as I put a lot of time into something, it doesn't get the views you want. So you're disappointed. So now it's more about showing the race, the highlights of the race, and more just showing what happened and kind of, you know, leave all the good stuff for the TV show. Wednesday,
it's informative. It's a true highlight video is what it is.
Yeah. And you only have so much. Usually it's a song. Just you go by the song length. So 3 to 5 minutes. I will finish that up decently. I'm usually by like 3. So I try to start working at 8 to 9, but I try to get that finished, get that uploaded on 4 different pages, make the Instagram reel for it, push that out, just try to get something out right away. It used to be in years past, I would do that on Wednesday, but I've been trying to deliver stuff a lot faster the last couple years. Wednesday, I start the ride. The ride takes a good amount of time. I do a lot of like color corrections, nothing crazy, but music has really been a battle for the last couple of years of just trying to find something good that's not going to get flagged on Facebook or YouTube. So I can sit there for hours finding like basically picturing what I'm going to make in my head off the song. So find the song, make the ride, and then I have to send all the little clips to all the riders so they can promote it and help promote it as well.
How does that work with the music loop? Does it have to be independent? I've always wondered that. How does that work?
So, all right. So you go get a Britney Spears song. At all people, right? You get a Britney Spears song, you put it on your video, you make this edit, you love it, and then you go and post it, and it's not available to view with that music. So I try to stick away from that and pick uncopyright music from certain websites, certain pages of YouTube channels, and try to find something that either, like for the ride purposes, something that's different, new, or something no one's ever heard. For riders, like specific rider videos, I try to kind of base it off their personality, or, you know, if a kid likes country or you like rock, or I try to stay away from the country. It's actually one of the hardest genres of music to edit with. But honestly, picking music is a pain in the butt. It's very time consuming. And then I guess I don't want to tell all my secrets, but I have a list, about 5 lists of every song I've ever used.
Okay.
So in any video I've ever made, so I can try not to replicate something I've done in the past. Like I don't want to use the same songs over and kind of stale it out, make it boring. So
I
I
see.
try to be different with everything I do. And if I pick a song, I'll put it into YouTube and I'll see if it flags it, like without making the edit. And that's where you're like, okay, I found the perfect song. Can't wait to start this video. And then boom, it's flagged and it'll show this song's not playable, and it'll have a list of countries or whatever. Or Facebook will just, it says partially muted. I don't know what that means, but sometimes it plays for me, it doesn't play for others. So basically I try to work my way around that and find uncopyright music.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting to hear all that. I've always wondered how all that works. I know as a video guy like you are, you have all kinds of hoops you got to jump through with stuff like that. So I've always wondered that. And I wanted to know, I knew how crazy your schedule was after the race weekends, obviously with all the work you have to do. Kind of wanted to hear about that. Is cool.
There's still more too.
Oh, okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Thursday, I start on all the personal edits that years past, I didn't offer them because I was full-time with MX Sports and I really focused on just the pro stuff.
Okay.
Now with not being full-time, I have a little bit of extra time. I get not really extra time, but I can, someone says they want a video. I don't really advertise it, but I'll, make a personal edit or raw video or rider spotlight.
You got a little more freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually Thursdays. And depending on how many I do of those, that's all day. That's till 8, 9 at night sometimes.
Okay.
Leftover stuff that I didn't get done, I finish on Friday, but usually I start TV shows on Friday, and then the 3 races Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I try to work on TV shows before we get back on the road and go to the next event, if it's in every other round. So
thankfully a week, a schedule like we have like right now in between races, you have that extra week in there. That has to be so nice.
Yeah. I've taken like yesterday, I just kind of caught up on stuff around the house with working on stuff. I made a personal video, but I try to, like, if I have this extra week, I try to like kind of not try to think about a lot of it and try to get a little reset. So obviously owning a home is a whole different world, and you always have something to do, and I'm catching up on this and getting stuff ready for that. So cleaned out my whole van, washed everything I own in the garage. So yeah, it's just always a lot, really.
Yeah, that's for your own like personal well-being. It just feels good to tidy up those things and get some of that stuff checked off the list. But as far as ATV motocross stuff goes, obviously, like I feel like I need to thank you on behalf of everybody in the sport, because you do so much for it. I don't know what ATV motocross would be like as far as coverage goes and video coverage and all that stuff without you. I mean, you're the mogul at this point. So that's awesome. We appreciate everything you do, obviously. But it's crazy to think about your schedule like that. Everything you do for ATV motocross is amazing. And I kind of wanted to talk about, or at least I guess I didn't even have this on my list of topics, but I meant to reach out to you a number of times this season, because I've thought, at least especially recently with the last few rounds that we went over, the ride has been like better than ever, in my opinion. I mean, your coverage, the way you're editing it, like all the stuff, it's just so cool. Your ride, like everybody in the sport waits for Wednesday for the ride to come out. So even being at the races, you catch more things watching the ride,
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's definitely time consuming.
I know. Well, you can tell that it's time consuming with how good the product is. Okay. So as I said at the opening, you spend more time around these riders than just about anybody. So I'd love to ask you about some of the topics from these last 9 rounds of pro class racing, starting with the fact that Joel Hetrick was so dominant early. Are you surprised that Chad was able to step up his game, basically like again, like he's always seemed to be able to do, and able to ward off the furious charge that Joel had mounted in the middle of the season? Because at one point he had completely erased his 20-ish point deficit that he found himself after the opener.
Yeah. It doesn't, obviously it's Chad, it doesn't surprise me, but he found another gear in a couple of these rounds. So, specifically Unadilla, where usually, Joel's gone, it's hard packed, it's wide open. And that was definitely impressive ride for Chad with, obviously in my head, and he might not agree, but he likes the rough tracks. He likes the sand. He likes the rollers. So
Right. Yep.
obviously I expect him to do well at those style tracks, but to see him basically just get out front fast at Unadilla was pretty impressive. And like I said, I think the team and him have just found something else, more power, more training, all that type of stuff that adds up until, one puzzle or one pie, all the pieces need to be put together, but he's definitely found it.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. Joel was on such a furious run at some point early in the season. He strung a number of race wins together, I think at least 3 in a row, and kind of made up some ground. And then Chad was able to counter. And what stood out to me was how good Joel was at the opener. Like he at Daytona, I mean, we saw Joel seemed like faster than ever, and Chad just found a way to counter, and it made it fun to watch down the stretch. So I wanted to at least touch on that, because we haven't talked to you in so many months now. At this point in the season, whole landscape of the season had changed in that time. One of the other things that we were talking about coming into the season was Bryce Ford. He was a topic of conversation, obviously, but we touched on him basically challenging for moto and race wins. That's something that we kind of queued up in the off season. And I think a lot of people thought that he may be able to run with those front two as the 2021 season played out here. So we haven't necessarily seen him do that. He's grabbed a number of podiums. Obviously, he's been impressive. He's third in points right now, with probably pretty good odds to earn that spot after Briarcliff as the season ending points would go. He'd be the top 3 guy. But did you expect more this season? And I don't mean that in a critical way. Just did he live up to all the hype that we were kind of preaching in the off season?
I don't think he didn't live up to the hype. I think it's Bryce Ford. He's really fast. A lot of these guys, they have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. They have to be consistent. They have to minimize the mistakes. And I honestly think that Chad and Joel have just upped the game so much that gap looks so much bigger now with, there's 3rd through 6th guys. So when you watch the battles for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, like all year long, they're intense. They're flying, but those two guys are still something clicked again, which you wouldn't think is they're getting even faster.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree that those two guys just grabbed another gear, and that's what it is. But Bryce himself, he's always had the crazy speed. Now, to me, he looks like he's got a little more maturity. Even at these last 2 races, he dealt with getting tangled up in the first corner of the second moto at Redbud. He takes a digger in the second moto at Loretta's. And in both of those situations, he was able to overcome that and still stretch his points lead a little bit for that 3 spot. By that, like, to me, you can see that he is maturing. Like, he's turning into a true professional to be able to deal with those, those hurdles, that adversity, and still stretch that lead. I mean, I think he did, like, even if that gap maybe is what it is, but it still looks like he grabbed another gear, took another step forward in 2021. I think there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he's definitely matured for sure. And it could take some of these guys, it could take 2-3 years, because it's hard to minimize the mistakes at that speed that you're going. It's not, a lot of these guys are used to going in Pro-Am, and kind of, you're only really racing those top guys. They're only racing with 3 guys usually,
Exactly.
the pack spreads out so quick. So, at the beginning of the year, we were at Decker training facility, and he's like, what do I need to do? And I'm like, you gotta minimize the mistakes and stay consistent. That's what it's all about. You could win a championship in pretty much anything. I mean, it's going to sound dumb because, those top 2 are there, but you could get 4th places all year in almost anything and win a championship. Mm-hmm. So not saying he's a 4th place rider, but like, consistency is super key in, any kind of motorsport or any kind of racing in general.
Yep. You're 100% right. Talking about another guy that's been consistent, it's been so much fun to see Jeffrey Rastrelli become a week in and week out podium contender again in 2021. I think he's another guy that you're close with as well. And, if I would have told you a few months ago that he'd podium twice and he'd have 5 top 5s going into the finale here, would you have said, like, that was too low, like that was being too modest, that was just right? or like maybe that was unrealistically, like too many if we would have been predicting back then, because we haven't seen this Jeffrey in a few years. So if I would have told you that this is the season he would have, and he's within shouting distance, like if he goes out and has a really strong finale, he could be the top 3 guy. Was just wondering if you would have thought right now, if we would have teleported you here from, 6 months ago, if you would have thought that was realistic, kind of expected, or if it would have been a surprise, the season that Jeffrey's put together.
I think with, like we said before, with that 3rd spot open, I think I personally would expect him to do a lot better, but that's just him. Like, that's me, and that's, there's mistakes. Like, something breaks, something happens here, and he just seems to not have the best luck when it comes. It's hit or miss. It's black or white with him. There's no in between, and something happens. So, obviously, I always remember, like, again, watching 2014 footage of Jeffrey. He rips. There's no doubt about it. So, I think that just new machine, getting used to something, it's kind of a really big step that people don't really, think about. They always just say, "Oh, you moved to Yamaha, you don't live a Honda," whatever, trolls on the internet. But it's a whole new machine for that team, motor builder, everything. So, I guess what I'm saying is I expected a little bit better, but again, like, bad luck. Some of the stuff is just straight up bad luck.
Right. But he has put together a really good season, especially down the stretch here. Like, his starts have been good. He's been right at that front mix this whole time. And you're right. I mean, the points would probably look a little different had he not dealt with those little issues that he kind of did, whether it was the flat tire at Loretta's. He's dealt with things here and there, but I feel like his fitness is better than ever. And he's literally doing every single thing that he can to put himself in position. He's leaving no stone unturned. And it's just awesome to see the best version of Jeffrey back in 2021. Cause like I said, it's been a little while.
Yeah. And I think, you can clearly see that Jeffrey's trimmed down a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
He's more fit. Obviously, Jeffrey always, since I've known him, is always busting butt, going riding bike, going and running and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think he's also like a late starter. So like it takes a little while to like build that groove coming in through the season.
Yeah, to get warmed up.
And it kind of also depends where these guys end up staying at. If he goes back and forth to home and gets to train, or if he stays somewhere, like all these little things I think are a factor.
It's crazy. Like you're right. There's so many factors. What we see at the races is really only a very small percentage of their program. There's so much behind the scenes. Like you said, new machine, where are you training, travel time? Are you dealing with an injury? Are you dealing with a sickness? All these things. There's so much more than what we see just at the races.
Even just driving the camper home.
Exactly.
All the way to Florida from where we're, most of the races are located. That all kind of adds up. You could be tired for 2 days. I know I'm tired, but I'm not a professional athlete, but
right.
There's a lot that goes into it. And like I said, late starter for me, in my opinion, usually he picks up and he just stays up there in that top.
And we've seen that. And we've seen that, him getting kind of hot here down the stretch. If it wasn't for him dealing with a few things, I think him and Bryce would be just about tied. But he finds himself 8 points down. But it's just awesome to see him just back to being the Jeffrey that we kind of know and love. I love to see that. Wesley Wolf, Gloop, 2 podium finishes this season. If I would have told you that before Daytona, would you have believed me? Because he had never podiumed up till that point, remember? So if I told you Wesley Wolf would grab 2 podiums in 2021, what would you have thought?
So I guess I have a little bit of advantage on that because I was staying in the same places, Wesley. So I saw him get on his woods bike and ride, in the rain and go and train when everyone's hiding inside and they all have, hoodies on and they're all bundled up, and Wesley's out there just putting in the work. And I haven't been around Wesley like most of my career of this, and it was cool to see like he does put in the work. And did I expect it? I expected a third at most, like just because. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, there, like I said, anything was up for grabs for half of these guys. So, like, just to think it could have been how many, 6 guys that have that opportunity for third, or to push up to those top spots. So,
but he's been impressed. Like, he impressed me. I mean, he took a step that I don't know that I necessarily thought. Like, maybe, he's always been kind of right there. I mean, he's been a 4th place guy at times and stuff over the years, but being on that JH, bike, it just seemed like he took a further step than I expected. And I wanted to be able to give him some credit. I know, we've been giving him credit on these episodes, but man, he was impressive. And I know before the injury that we saw at Loretta's, like there's a full on plan in the off season to do even more than this season. And if that's the case, those guys better watch out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, he puts in the work. He's not really one to sit around too. He's not, I don't really ever see him just hanging out. So, I mean, other than at night when we eat dinner and stuff, but
yeah,
I mean, he's always moving, doing something, helping work on the track down there. So, like the question you said was, did I expect it? Maybe not so much. And I don't want to hurt any feelings, but yeah, I didn't think it was out of the question.
Well, I think more than anything, it's a credit to him. Like, he was able to take a major jump at, being a number of years into his, pro career, which isn't always the case that you're able to do that. That makes it almost more impressive than anything. And like I said, I think that if he can grab another gear, like, there's guys that, whether it's our sport, other sports, business sense, whatever, like, we all know those people that it's like, I wouldn't bet against that guy, like that person is just going to make it happen. And he seems like he has that quality to me.
I guess I also forget how young he is too. So he's got the time, like I said, it takes years for some of these guys to get to where they are. It's not instant. Everyone sees a guy in pro-am, oh, he's going to go up here and do this and this, he's going to win. But usually never happens like that.
Well, in the dirt bike, we've said this so many times, but on the dirt bike side of things, when you go pro, you're racing. It would be like if that second half of the pack was all in pro-am and that was the lights class and they were all growing together. Well, no, you just get in ATV motocross, you get thrown to the wolves at 17 or 18 or 19 or whatever your age is. But you're not going to go challenge for a win or a podium, most likely, or even a top 5. You're going to be mid pack and you're out there with Chad Wienen and Joel Hetrick and, whoever. That is a tough pill to swallow, for one, and it takes a lot of growth and it takes some thick skin to be able to go out there and not be worried about getting in anybody's way and not being beaten down by racing the fastest ATV riders in the world.
Oh, for sure. And it's a big step. Like, it's people want to pretend pro-am is there. It's not. It's really not. It's a different pace.
Especially now, it feels like for whatever reason, pro-am just isn't what it used to be. Okay. So what about Nick Gennusa, another guy that I know you're close with? If I would have told you after Daytona that Gennusa wouldn't get another podium, with the caveat that there's one race, that still remains, you'd never believe me, right? Because he got that podium at Daytona, but man, he looked so good. And I'm not shitting on the season that he's had. I mean, he's been, consistent. He's dealt with some stuff like that engine blowing up at Unadilla. He's dealt with some stuff, but he's been consistent as he's always been. But man, at Daytona, like, you would have thought he was the clear cut number 3 guy. Like, he was going to be the closest guy to that front group. I know Nick expects huge things of himself. And I think that, like we saw at Sunset Ridge, what he does when he gets a start, he can easily be the podium guy in a moto. And overall, if he can put 2 starts together, but man, I would have expected a few more podiums out of him this season. Again, not shitting on him. I'm a big fan. And I know that he's a big proponent and a big supporter of what you do, what I do, whatever. But man, I just would have expected a few more podiums out of him. That's for sure, especially after what he showed us at Daytona. Yeah,
I honestly expected more from Nick, but also I know the other side of things is the outside life of racing. He's building a house, he's doing this, he's constantly moving. He's always, all the things to build in a house. I don't even really know because I've never built a house, but all the things that go into that kind of take you away from focusing on racing. Obviously, he rides a lot on his track. I think his starts are like the biggest problem for a long time. It's he's going to kill me for saying this, but he picks very strange spots. I think, knowing that if you're not you don't have the big horsepower that say Chad has, like you got to pick a safer spot out of those gates to not go out and get wet. He's always an inside line guy, so he picks the inside and then he gets like basically closed out, and then he starts from second to last half these times. And I don't see anyone battle or pass anyone more than Nick Gennusa. Like you said, if he just starts up front and gets a better hole shot, and I don't know, it's maybe not motor or whatever, but it's just when he starts out front, he's going to stay up towards those guys a lot better than, those bad starts.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, very rarely do you ever see him get past. He's always the one that makes, he passes from like near 10th to 4th or 5th in a moto. Like it happens almost every moto. But if he could just get those starts, like I said, we've seen what happens when he gets those starts. So maybe he can finish the year off with a podium at Briarcliff. That would leave a good taste in his mouth, and that would help him in the points as well. So if I said most improved pro, Gloop, who comes to mind the quickest?
I feel like everyone knows the answer to this question. Max, most improved pro, in my opinion, because it's his first year. So, to be up there with those guys already, when everyone at the beginning of the season wants to doubt any rider, no matter who they are, if they're the pro rookie, it's really cool to see. He's a very good kid. He's a very good rider. And it's awesome to see someone that's so humble, so passionate about this sport, be up there right off the bat, battling with all these guys. And in my opinion, most improved pro for sure.
It's amazing to see, like you see the podium pictures that you guys post and stuff. And you see, Joel and Chad, two legends, they'll go down as legendary ATV motocross riders. And then you see Max and you see the 17-year-old kid, and it's just incredible. But you watch him on the racetrack and he clearly belongs there. And right now he's got probably more confidence than anybody in the class. So I guess, 2 years from now, where do you see Max Lindquist? Because I think no matter who it is at the time, I'm sure Joel will still be around. Chad could very well be around. There's a lot of guys that are going to be in the mix, Bryce and Brandon Hogue, and guys that have been there for a long time, Jeffrey Estrelli, Nick Gennusa, however long those guys stay. But man, I think 2 years from now, Max could be battling for race wins. Like there's no doubt in my mind, I think.
Yeah, he's Mr. Consistent. Like he doesn't fade. He stays where he's at, and he's just consistent. So to say that he's going to be up there in 2 years, yeah, he is. Like he's going to be that top three. Maybe in 2 years we're going to say there's 6 guys that can be up in that top three. We never know. So I definitely kind of expect that out of him. He's going to mature. Obviously, I always forget again how young some of these guys are.
I know.
You would never think you're talking to a 17-year-old when you talk to Max. So
a high school kid. A high school kid. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's definitely he's on the right path for sure.
He could be a great candidate to be kind of the face of the sport going forward. How about what's your opinion on the sleepy big news that, Chad has basically made it clear that Max is the future of Wienen Motorsports whenever Chad decides to hang it up. What's your opinion on that?
I don't, in terms of what do you like?
I don't know. It's just, I guess Chad almost struck me as a guy that, he'll win however, he'll win all these races. He'll win however many championships he ends up having when he's done. And then maybe he rides off and maybe isn't at the races anymore or whatever, but he doesn't necessarily make it sound that way. It sounds like he's going to roll out a team and Max will lead that team. What's your opinion on that? I think it's cool. Like, I love the fact, we love having Jeremiah at the races and other legends. When Shane Hitt shows up or, any of those guys, like we'd love to have those legends at the track. So to think that Chad may continue on at our races in a managerial role, like, I think that's awesome. Just wanted to know your opinion on that. Cause Chad kind of slipped that in on the podium one of these last 2 weeks.
I think that was Redbud, right?
Right. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure we covered it here. And I don't think we did enough of that in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think that'll be awesome. And I think we'll see, and we're always just, who knows what we'll see, but
Right.
We could see that Chad's the mechanic, Chad's the manager and mechanic, he's helping. He might not be doing everything, but he's saying, hey, maybe you'll take your two bikes home this weekend. I'll prep them. I'll get them ready. Here's your practice bike. Don't worry about it. Take a little bit of stress off the family, and we might see that. Or we might see Max, and maybe if Chad keeps the team going, he adds a rider. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, maybe he creates this little farm system, right, of what he did with Max. He might do it with another rider going forward. I just think it's a really cool thing for the sport. Okay, so let's focus more on the finale specifically now. So with a 22-point gap and just 2 motos remaining, unless something unprecedented and wildly unexpected happens, Chad Wienen's going to win his 8th title next weekend at Briarcliff, which would tie Gary Denton's record that he set back in 1994. Just like we asked Casey on last week's episode, what would Chad tying that record mean to you, Gloop?
I think that record's huge. It's a massive record. Like, did anyone probably think that someone else would get that amount of wins, that amount of championships? I don't think so. So that's awesome. That's a huge achievement. Probably, there's no better achievement than, obviously he has to go another year, and try to beat it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that'll be cool to see. And it means to me is that, it's awesome. Like, it just, a lot of people that quit or behind the scenes, they want to say this sport's dying. And what do you think? What can we do to do this? And the numbers are up,
Exactly.
It might not look to you that in 2007, when you're at a race, it looked bigger. It might just look bigger because you're younger and you don't remember, or a younger kid. And
you glorify it. You glorify it when it's a past memory. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like everyone talking about WPSA. It's like, yeah, it was big, but if we brought those numbers and that amount of people and all that now, is it the same thing? I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. I reposted your highlight video from Briarcliff 2014 yesterday, and there's people commenting on it saying, the glory days, and I wish that the battles were like they were then. I like wishing they were now like they were then. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, look at the awesome racing we've had all year long. Like, I feel like it's better now, it's crazy. And that's why I kind of wanted to get your opinion on the Gary Denton thing, because 10 years ago, you would have never thought that somebody would get close. No way. You would have never thought. Now here we are, and Chad is on the cusp of tying this thing. And yes, like, the sport is different than it was, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, almost 25 years ago, when Gary Denton was, racking up all these titles. But the fact that we had, and this is the same thing I said to Casey, we had all the names of all the legendary guys, from Gus to Farr to Jeremiah to all the guys, Creamer, Natali, all the guys that we've seen over the course of the last, 20, 25 years. And none of them got even close to winning that many titles. And Chad's going to, he's at 7. He could very well be at 8 by the time, Briarcliff ends. It just is a testament to what Chad has done. Now, people want to say, well, there's not nearly as much talent out there and whatever. Well, that's not the case. And people have to remember that, like, they were like, not factory teams or whatever when Gary was racing either. Like, that era came after. So back then, it's very similar, I feel like, to now, where you had outside, you had sponsors and, companies and people funding these teams, but there was no big factory efforts. I feel like it's very comparable. And the fact that we didn't see anybody, there's tons of legendary guys that will go down in, as in folklore of ATV motocross, that never even got close to this. And Chad Wienen did. And the fact that he's still doing it is crazy. But I wanted to get your opinion, because you always have these people that basically, laugh at the fact that, it's not like it used to be, when I just don't think that's true.
Yeah. And a lot of people now, and no one wants to give anyone credit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They always want an excuse for everything. And it's sad. And there's a lot of guys that quit and that I really respect it. And I see them, the stuff they post online. I'm like, what? Were you even at the race? Like, what are you talking about? Like, some of those guys that and names aside, they just want to hate on it. And it's like, all right, then come back and race. Like you're still in good enough shape to race. Like do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. Like there's no, there might have been more pros in the classes previous years, but were those top or were those back 8? Did they even really matter if we kind of cut those guys out?
Exactly.
That we have now.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. The other thing too is each of these years, Chad Wienen has basically been locked in some gnarly dual drop down drag out war with Joel Hetrick. Like he had to overcome one for sure, not even arguably, for sure, one of the fastest ever. Like he'll go down as being thought of like Jeremiah. Like he's so naturally talented, was ready to do it right as soon as he got on a big bike. All these things, like Chad had to deal with him every year. So for people to try to sell it as it was easy or that, he wasn't racing any crazy competition, like there was tons of legendary guys that were still in there, particularly in the earlier years of this, 7 now, possibly 8 title run. He also had to deal with Joel Hetrick every year. Like these people that's the way they sell it. It doesn't even make sense.
If people remember, it's not like Chad was this pro-am rider that you knew was going to move up and okay, he's just going to win. No, he worked for that. Like he really did change. He was a lot bigger guy. He rode different machinery and he's definitely earned it. And for people to take credit away from stuff, it's just like, come on, man. Like just
that's why it's so awesome. And I know I've talked myself blue in the face on this stuff. That's why I started digging deep was I felt like, in American culture or whatever, or maybe in sports in general, you build people up. And then when they get to the top, we all tear them down. You want to see them fail. Like that's just how it works. I don't know why, but that's how it works. Well, Chad Wienen went from being a 10th place pro, goes home, dedicates himself, remakes himself, gets it, comes out swinging on a privateer bike, slays it, earns a factory ride. And then there's a 5-year window even after that. So he's been proven that he can win, but he can never put it together. Didn't even win tons of overalls, nothing like that, because he might crash or he'd break the bike in half or whatever. Like that's who Chad Wienen was. He gets on the Yamaha in 2012, figures it out, wins all these races, 60 plus races. I mean, it's amazing what he's done, but to think that would be like a Cody Ford, or maybe not even, because Cody Ford's, farther up than that. That would be, a 10th place guy just figuring it out. Next year, he comes out, wins some races. And then over the next course of a few years that followed that, he figures it out to the point that he's winning title after title after title. Nobody has a story like Chad Wienen does. And I do think that that's special. And sometimes I feel like he doesn't get probably the credit that he deserves.
Oh, for sure. And that's anything anymore. Like it's just the way of the internet, really. I mean, the internet wasn't as big, so no one had a voice then, so now everyone's voice to them matters. To me, it doesn't, but what I'm saying? People really want to take away credit from pretty much anything nowadays. So yeah, I mean, you can't take that accomplishment away from anyone.
That's what everybody does, right? They get online and they comment on stuff and beat it down or whatever, but they never have any, like, there's no constructive criticism. Like they don't tell you what to do to make something better. They just say, it's not what it used to be, or it sucks. Like that's,
the sport's going downhill, but I have nothing to fix it. No, no examples on how we can make it better. But like you said, should have not let that thought go without touching on it, because the numbers are increasing. The classes are stacked. There's tons of young talent coming up through the classes. Like the pro class in 5 years might be, way gnarlier than it is now, because some of that talent coming up is wild. I mean, I think it's the first year I really spent filming 50 riders, just in general, some of the guys I work with. Yeah. And it's just like, holy crap, like this is how you're riding now on a 50 at 6 to 8 years old. Right. It, like you said, it's stacked, and these guys are going to work their way up, and it's just going to keep getting better and better. And I think that people need to just, even though you quit or you're not in the racing anymore, either look at it, enjoy it, and take it take it as it is, or just
get out of here.
Hate on it, and take your phone, type up what you want to type up, and delete it. Like, if that's what makes you feel better at the end of the day, like, and that's just the way of the internet nowadays. Everyone wants to. Everyone thinks their opinion matters, and realistically, no, it doesn't. Sorry, your opinion doesn't matter all the time.
You'd think that these past people would want the sport to live on, so that their legacy, lives on a little more, but it doesn't always seem like that's the case. So I don't really understand the motive there. Okay,
understand it.
Exactly. Let's get to the next question here regarding the finale. Then, so Bryce Ford is 8 points up on Jeffrey Rastrelli for the third spot. That coveted third spot in the series point standings. Does Jeffrey put on the ride of his life? He may need to win to surely solidify that top 3 spot, or does Bryce kind of solidify himself as the newest member of the big 3 in ATV motocross by earning third in points? He would essentially, kind of fill that void left by Thomas Brown and his departure there. But what do you see happening? What's more likely? Does Jeffrey go out, put on the ride of his life, and secure that top 3 spot, or does kind of Bryce hold him off and solidify himself as the newest member of the top 3?
It's a very hard question. I think anything can go. Who do you think is the better hard packed rider? We're going to hard pack track. In your opinion, who do you think shines more in hard pack in general out of those two?
Man, I don't know, because Jeffrey has said to us and said to me that he does better on hard pack for whatever reason.
Yep.
If it wasn't
last year,
exactly. If it wasn't 8 points, like 8 seems like a lot to me.
Just 2 years ago, by the way. Sorry.
Okay, but eight seems like a lot to me, just because there's not that many points that differentiates that group. That group is so tight. But man, Jeffrey's starts have been good. Like, man, I'd love to see him do it. I just feel like 8 points might be too much to overcome. That's why I said, like, his only guarantee, because I don't even know if second would be enough. If he could go 2-2, it'd be close. But man, he might have to come out and win a moto or something to guarantee it. Like, I think that 8 points might just be too much to overcome. Those guys are so stacked. Like, we've seen them. I mean, you're filming these things. Like, Bryce and Jeffrey have been nip and tuck, especially the second part of the year here. They've been bumper to bumper.
Yeah, I think honestly, Briarcliff's going to be really, really good, like a really good round. I have a lot of people have a lot going on there, a lot to put on the line. So, well,
everybody, not to cut you off there, Gloop, but everybody in what we call the tier 2 in the fantasy purposes, but that group from like 3rd to 6th or 7th, everybody, I guess, with the exception of Hogue, is racing for something, because Jeffrey and Bryce Ford are battling for the top 3 spot. Gennusa's trying to hold off Max for the top 5, and all of them want to podium. So that grouping is going to be must watch when it comes to your videos in the racing we're going to see at Briarcliff. So continue with that point, but I just wanted to touch on all of those guys are racing for something.
Yeah. And one bad moto could change that whole grouping up. I mean, imagine a DNF, a DNF can take a ton of points from you fast. So I think it's going to be awesome. I'm actually really excited to go to Briarcliff just because we haven't been there. So, since 7 years ago?
Yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah. And I feel like I like those hard pack. Like, it just seems like an ATV track. Hard packed, I feel like, just makes good for ATV racing. Like, I feel like we see good racing on that style of racetrack. And I feel like that's going to be the perfect host to the finale, an exciting finale for sure. Okay, so Nick Gennusa, we kind of just touched on this, but I'll get your thoughts on this. So Nick Gennusa just moved up into the top 5 in points this past round, and he's finally up in the top 5. He's been in the top 5 every single year, of his professional career here. But here comes Max Lindquist. He's only 2 points back now after consecutive podium finishes. So whoever beats the other at Briarcliff could very well mean that that's the person that's going to get the top 5 spot. So who if you had to lean one way or the other, I know obviously this is tough, but if you had to lean one way or the other, we asked Casey the same thing. Who would you lean towards? Red hot Max Lindquist or the always steady Nick Gennusa, who's literally always every single year put it in the top 5. I can't imagine him not being in the top 5, but I also couldn't have imagined Max going back-to-back podiums in the last 2 races. It's going to be like this one. I have no idea what's going to happen with this one.
Yeah. I mean, obviously no idea. How do you pick between 2 people you like? You know what I mean? You're going to hurt someone's feelings either way.
I know.
Honestly, I think Nick's going to put it all on the line here. And I think so I think he'll be that one step ahead when it comes to the overall.
So the thing with those 2 guys too is it's almost extra hard to predict because both of them haven't always been the best starters this season. So how do you predict that? It might be whoever gets a better start, you know?
Do you even is the start the same as it was in 2014 or I don't even know anything about the layout?
So the listeners are going to hear a little more coming up. We're going to have Jeremy Osborn, the owner of Briarcliff, coming up on the show here, but a little spoiler. Basically there's only one jump or one section that's in the same spot that it was 7 years ago. Okay. The start's different. Most of the track is backwards from the last time we were there. So I know a lot of listeners have ridden the track, you know, they probably know more than you and I do, but the track is wildly different than the last time the series raced there.
Yeah. I think I've seen a couple comments of people saying, wow, it's crazy how that track looked, you know.
Yeah. I saw that too.
I don't know where I saw it, but I saw it somewhere, maybe on your stuff, but, maybe Nick make a little bit better hole shot or gate pick, you know, don't go all the way inside, you know, trying to out horsepower these big horsepower guys.
Right.
But yeah, it could be as well. I mean, all in the whole shot, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Nick might just have to come and ask you, Gloop. You're out there scoping the gates for him. Okay, let's talk about a few hypotheticals and some other stuff before we get out of here. So we got Zach Decker. We already know he's kind of confirmed in the last couple of races here that he plans to go pro in 2022. This is a topic we covered a little bit in previous episodes. Where do you think he's going to stack up next year? Like, who do you imagine him battling with when he does make the jump to the pro class? He's been racing Bryce pretty hard at some of these recent races in the Pro-Am class. So where do you see Zach Decker, you know, kind of stacking up when he does make the jump to pro?
I'd put him in this mix of guys we have right now. The guys that, you know, that I guess we say the 3rd through 6th or whatever. Yep. I'd easily put him in there. Again, first year pro, jitters, minimize mistakes, be consistent, worry about consistency more than speed. You know, we don't want, he reminds me of Gibson when you ride. Actually, style wise, they always get like, he looks like Nick Moser in the air. Like for some reason he rides like Nick Moser.
He's the little guy. Little guy like
a little, like, you know, little guy. He's kind of crouched over the front end of the bike.
Yep.
And then again, for some reason, it reminds me of Gibson. Just, you know, wild, ballistic, you know, back ends bouncing around, but he's keeping it in a straight line.
Yep.
So with minimizing mistakes, being consistent, I see him up in that group. It might take half the year, or it might take 2 rounds. I don't know. So, I mean, that's going to be really cool to see. I hope we don't have anyone retire, so we have a bigger pro class by then. Just Agreed. You know, add that extra guy. Maybe another guy's going to come up or something, but for sure see him up there mixing it up with those guys. Being that he could keep up with Lindquist and he keeps up with Bryce, so that's what I'm basing that on. So it's going to be definitely interesting for him.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. So we saw him battling with Bryce this year in Pro-Am and mixing it up, some pretty great racing recently in that class. And then, yeah, like we saw him and Max battle it out last year. I think the one thing is just going to be if he can stay consistent, you know, as long as he can not get, you know, in over his head, not like push it to the very, very limit. He can't do that, but if he can stay consistent and keep that thing on all 4, he'll be just fine. So that's going to be another great addition to the pro class. Another possible addition. My sources are telling me that there's a good chance that Alan Myers is going to be back. And I think that you can, I mean, if we insert him into the class, I think he's another guy that's going to be in that same pack. You know, he was there last year. It's hard to figure what 1 year removed from that, how that impacts a rider, but I can't imagine him any farther back than that. Like I don't, I guess there was times last year where, him and Stanfield ran around each other. They kind of reminded me of each other, but I just can't imagine. I mean, that's another guy that's going to be in that pack if we see Alan Myers return in 2022.
Oh, for sure. And, the only factor is how, taking the year off. He didn't really take the year off per se because he's been riding. So he has a stalker, and it's not like he did went to the beach for a year. So he's still very active and he's still in shape. So he still works out every day. So I think that'll be awesome to see what team he's riding for, who he's under, or who's supporting him. That's a whole nother story I don't know anything about, but that's going to be cool to see too. Just something different, and just having another pro rider back that we've had previous years. It'll be awesome to see for him, and really good for him too.
He's a kid that deserves it. Now, like I do hope that he gets a good opportunity. Because, it's well documented that he's sitting this season out for family purposes and stuff like that, because that took precedent over, forcing himself out onto the racetrack. So that's a kid that is very easy to cheer for. Maybe Nick Gennusa ish, like maybe that's where I see him, kind of stacking up. So be very fun to watch. So I watched, and we've touched on the 2014 Briarcliff race a few times. So I watched that video that you would have put together. I watched it yesterday. What do you remember from that weekend, kind of finishing up here? Because I remember that track just creating a bunch of really great racing. And I'm sure that that's probably what we can expect next weekend when we get out to Briarcliff.
The owner's a quad guy, so I'm sure he'll put in some split lines, some inside rollers, stuff like that. So he already knows what to expect and how to make the battles interesting. I think the biggest thing with the hard pack track is you can kind of point and shoot more. So you're always going to have better battles that way. There's not these other rough terrain obstacles where someone can slide out, slip out in the mud type of deal.
Yep.
It's a very fast track when we were there. Again, it's completely different apparently. So we'll see how that is, how everything's laid out, if it's tighter in the middle or if it's faster on the outsides. And honestly, I think it's just going to be a very exciting race all around.
Well, and you have to figure, and again, we have him coming up on the show, but Jeremy has been waiting 7 years for this opportunity. So between the track, the experience, the whole deal, the 4 days there he's going to make it so that everybody has a ball. And I think that it's probably a great way to end the 2021 season. It's probably a great facility to go to for the last race. I love the fact that we're going to ATV like friendly, owned by ATV people.
Else?
Like I love that. Like I'm not of the camp, not of the thinking that we need to go to the biggest name racetracks, go to ATV friendly, ATV specific, ATV owned racetracks. Like I love that.
There's some tracks that we go to, and I question it. I'm like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Because honestly, it doesn't feel like they want us here.
Well, there's certainly, and I don't want to name any of them, but there's certainly tracks that we went to in the past that they don't want us there. Like they're not ATV people. ATVs never touch the track unless it's an ATV national weekend. And I'd rather go to tracks that are maybe not as well known, but that want to have us. Like Jeremy has told me off record, like this is his Super Bowl. He's going to give us the best possible event. And that's what we should want as ATV national goers.
Yeah. I mean, just so everyone knows that Jeremy rides himself. So this would be an event we really put in the time and support and help kind of get friends and family to come and visit and just see this last finale. That's going to be obviously great battles. And then we're going to a guy that races ATVs himself. We're going to his track. Like this should be the track of anything that we support the most out of all the tracks we go, just because it's one of our team.
Mm-hmm. He's a guy that I think deserves this opportunity, and I think he's going to knock it out of the park. So excited to get over there. Excited to hear from him too. Hopefully he can kind of let us know what to expect this weekend, all the cool stuff that they have planned and everything else. So just so stoked that they got the opportunity. Gloop, so give us a podium prediction. Who you got? Briarcliff. We just talked about the track. We talked about all the riders. We talked about the storylines. Give me a podium prediction for Briarcliff.
Not in any order, and I'm just going to throw it out there.
Okay.
Joel Hogue Rastrelli.
Oh, wow.
Here's why I'm saying that. I think Chad's going to play it as safe as he can.
Okay.
So he doesn't care if he's going to get, maybe not on that podium, but he's worried about that championship.
Now, if that throws a huge wrench into things, Gloop, because if Chad were to not be on the podium, then there's more points up for grab, and then that might change everything for whether it's the battle for third, battle for fifth. That would change literally everything.
Yep. And I mean, obviously, I just want to see good battles. And
me too.
I want to have something to make a great TV show off of, and all the negativity in the years past. I don't like to watch the TV shows. Well, sorry, but I try. I'm not perfect, but I try to make those things interesting. But only so much happens in these previous years in these races that you can even show. Mm-hmm. So again, with those three through six, and then with Chad probably staying Mr. Consistent, not trying to make any mistakes, get tangled with anyone, get stuck in a whole shot first turn crash, any of that stuff. So I just think it's really going to be a very exciting race.
Mm-hmm. I agree. If I was going to predict the podium, so I think that Joel wins. I think that Chad will. I think the safest thing for Chad to do is probably finish second. Maybe, kind of by himself. So he's not racing anybody too tight. That's probably the safest place for him aside from winning. And then I think I just have this feeling about Brandon Hogue. Like, I feel like he's got a bad taste in his mouth with what happened at Loretta's. Casey said he was overtrained. I know he's not happy with that. And I just feel like, he's been riding at Briarcliff. I feel like he does good on hard pack tracks. So it's probably, in my mind, it's some battle between Brandon and Jeffrey. But I don't know, like one of those two guys, maybe I lean Brandon, but yeah, maybe Chad leaves a spot open. And then those are the two podium guys. Like you said, it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And like you said, Hogue, we see how Hogue posts on his social media. He's always very hard on himself. And he's going to push it this last round. This is like all or nothing for him. So, it's going to be really exciting all around. And I think he shines on hard pack too. We've seen at Unadilla, and he did very good. We didn't go there last year, right? So it has been 2 years.
Mm-hmm. It has.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. They all blend together. But yeah. Was it 2 years ago that he was up there, like really up there?
Yeah. Yep. I think so. Yep.
Yeah. So that it's going to be exciting. And I encourage everyone that's listening to this, like, tell grandma, grandpa, friends, family, like, this is the one that you guys should be supporting and going to. And Jeremy has with the pit quad race planned. I think a movie night. Yep. I think it's just going to be an all around fun end of the year race / celebration / just fun. Like, it's going to be a fun event.
It's going to be awesome. And yeah, touching on Brandon there, and like he got that podium earlier in the year at High Point. Again, hard pack tracks. That's Brandon's thing. So he's going to be another rider to watch. So that day back in 2014, the last time the series went there, who's like asking you who stood out? The answer was Ronnie Hagerson. Ronnie wasn't a top 5 rider at the time necessarily, but on that day, he got some good starts. He ran up front. He finished 5th in a moto here and a strong 6th overall. Who could be a candidate to be a surprise like Ronnie was that day at Briarcliff? As you think about it, I think maybe Stanfield. I think Stanfield would be a guy who could be, maybe not necessarily a top 5 guy right now, but a guy that could find himself up there. We saw that last year at the Virginia round at Lake Sugar Tree, where he got some good starts. It's kind of a hard pack track. He put himself in good position, earned a top 5 overall spot there. I think Logan just seems like the guy that could be in for that breakout ride. He's been right around that 8th place spot all year long, but man, if he could end the year kind of pushing up towards the top 5, that would be a great thing for him. So what about you, Gloop? If I asked you that question, who could maybe surprise us and make that jump up towards the top 5 at the finale? Who would you say?
I would absolutely say Stanfield. Like Sugar Tree. He was running. Was he running third and fourth at one point?
I think so.
He was up there, and he didn't fade fast. He stayed up there. Mm-hmm. They rode there last weekend. Yep. So that'll help a lot. He knows what to expect. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they're at now, but and it's still. To me, it's like it's one of those rounds where everyone's going to show what they have to keep the support they have, like everyone's going to try to put it on the line and prove that they still deserve what they're, deserve their positions of whatever it might be, sponsors or family support or anything. Just, I think it's really going to be, I mean, who knows? That's how I think about this round.
Exactly. I remember being in their shoes. And every year you want to end it on a high note, right? Everybody wants to go out with a bang. So you hit the nail on the head there. Lastly, as far as amateur racing goes, do you have anything you want to touch on as far as amateur racing goes before we get out of here? Whether it's Briarcliff or 2021 as a whole, maybe like amateur rider of the year prediction or something like that.
Prediction. Well, they always base it on championships, right?
I think pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, if we're doing like a most improved, like to me, Dane Molander, like insane.
Yeah,
insane.
I think so too.
Like,
That would have been my guy too.
It's no offense to him or the family, and I've talked to Don, his dad, about it. It's like, years ago, did I ever think that you would be like you went? He picked it up. Like he completely changed. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool to see, being that he's a local rider to me and everything too. Obviously, I play a favorite with that, but still, I mean, he's been, what is it, Pleasure Valley, race Pro-Am, or was it Pro Sport? Or Pro Sport. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that was cool to see. Like, he was staying up there with those guys,
And then comes out and wins Redbud. Right. Yeah. Like, it's been really impressive. And then, we had him on the show a couple episodes ago following that Redbud race, but talk about a great kid, like well-spoken, so respectful, just a kid you want to see succeed. He would have been my pick too, but just a kid you want to cheer for, honestly. Yeah, for sure. And a lot of these guys, they hit a time where they mature, and then, they're not this little shithead that they were when they were little. So right, there's a lot of guys, not specifically Dane, but kids in the past. So I'm like, this kid's kind of he is what he is. Now to see someone, just some of these amateurs mature in that way, and it's really just awesome to see. And it's also awesome to see, like, when people put in the hard work and actually something clicks where they start caring a lot more, or they start training a lot more. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really cool to see the results with a lot of these guys. Exactly. Like I said, that's a kid you want to cheer for. And I think that we're going to see a lot of him in the years going forward. Awesome. Let's wrap on that note then, Gloop. This is exactly why I wanted to do a preview show like this for the finale, to go over all the storylines, kind of preview all the battles that I think we're going to see heading into Briarcliff. And so this is awesome. It lived up to my expectation and surely surpassed it. So Gloop, I just can't thank you enough for doing this, especially, like I said, on late notice. I think that you bring so much knowledge to these kind of conversations. So I can't truly, I can't thank you enough for doing this, pal. Appreciate it. Not the most well-spoken, but at least I try to get out, my opinions without, making anyone too mad. But hey, like I know there's always trying to thread that needle of not like offending anybody, that's never the MO of any of this stuff. Yeah, we're not trying to slight anybody, but you bring, a lot of these guys, so many of these guys better than anybody. And I just really appreciate all the knowledge that you bring to us. I come away from all of these conversations every time we've had you on feeling like I learned something, and that it was just an awesome conversation. So I've come away from it feeling good about it. So I just can't thank you enough, pal. I appreciate it. You're the man. Thanks for everything. We have to thank Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Click that banner on our website to get your parts, gear, and what have you, and to help us out. Thanks again to Gloop Mahey. You already know what to do. Be sure to follow the RipitupFilms page, the series pages, for all the video coverage of the last hurrah of 2021. And thanks again, Gloop. Thanks so much. I'm more stoked than ever for the championship weekend that's ahead. So I just can't thank you enough for previewing it with us. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And one shameless plug, I think, we talked about Jeremy's a quad guy. He's we're supporting a quad track. Yep. Decker training facility next year, guys. Let's support that. Where else are you going to go and be welcome as an ATV rider and just not feel out of place? So I think that, once it starts picking up with the ATV community, I think that we all should be supporting that track and year round. So shameless plug, but yeah, I wanted to talk about that. The Decker training facility is the place to be in the off season. That's the place to be for ATV people, probably anybody in general, but to have an ATV centric facility like that is the place to be. So yeah, we absolutely have to step up and support it. Gloop, thanks so much. Thanks for that extra plug there. And just thanks so much for being here with us, pal. I can't wait and look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, pal. We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. Welcome to the team, two-time champ Joel Hetrick, who dropped the biggest news of the offseason when he announced his move to CST Tires. The CST takeover has been gaining momentum over the past several seasons, and now Joel Hetrick and his Phoenix Racing teammate Jeffrey Rastrelli are the most recent additions. The Pulse MXR tire has helped lead riders like Thomas Brown to race wins and 3 consecutive Quad Cross of Nations titles, Nick Gennusa to the Pro Class podium, myself Cody Jansen as I rode my Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears to back-to-back national championships in the Junior 25 Plus class, and the most recent additions have us thinking a Pro Class national championship is on the horizon for CST tires. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Gennusa, myself, and so many others are believers in CST tires. Are you? CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. You already know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast. Whether it's second all-time winningest, 7-time and reigning ATV MX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, or 6-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFC 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This unprecedented success for the YFC 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undeniable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has created a Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Better yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and even stronger for 2021, meaning Yamaha riders are about to cash in on higher payouts and more prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them on social media at Yamaha Outdoors, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. For over 150 years, Valvoline has led the charge by being dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, and for the better part of a decade, I've been fortunate enough to be part of the historically great Team Valvoline. From my commuting vehicles to small engines, race quads, and everything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline in all of my equipment. I've experienced increased function and durability as well as a longer life expectancy thanks to Valvoline's array of products and lubricants. Since 1866, Valvoline has been focused on bettering your experience, whether on road, on track, and everywhere in between. Upgrade to Valvoline today and check them out at valvoline.com. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and oh yeah, 6-time NHRA World Champion Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATV MX podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their range of championship winning chains. Powered by technology, DID chains are designed to give you the greatest strength to weight ratio, making them the optimal chain for racing and giving you a championship level edge. DID has been driving championship-winning race programs since 1933, chosen by champions such as Chad Wienen, Joel Hetrick, and myself, Cody Jansen. Champion above the rest is DID's 520 ATV 2-chain, with those same design principles and materials being used throughout their entire line of products, including their on-road category as well. Pick up a DID chain today at your local dealer or a reputable online e-tailer. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Numira Technologies. Since 2001, Numira has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Numira's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, that allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Numira's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits, visit your local dealer or online at www.numira.com. Numira Technologies, pistons with an attitude. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, all the way down to suspension parts and bearing kits. Bronco is your hard part source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. 4Works Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, 4Works has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust 4Works for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. 4Works Carbon, always working hard to bring high-quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
All right, guys, stoked to talk to this next guest, and I'm stoked for him in general. Brought to you by our friends at DP Brakes, the first, the best, the leader in sintered brake technology. DP is a worldwide supplier of industry-leading brakes and clutches for your motorcycle, scooter, snowmobile, or mountain bike. Available at www.dp-brakes.com or at your local dealer. The ATV Motocross National Championship is headed to Briarcliff for the first time since 2014, and it's my honor to introduce the owner of Briarcliff himself, Mr. Jeremy Osborn. Sir, welcome to Digging Deep, and congrats to Briarcliff. Congrats to you and your family on Briarcliff making its triumphant return to the national schedule.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. It's I don't know. It's just awesome to be a part of it and to be welcomed back and to give us another chance to prove we can pull our own weight as far as being a promoter in the series.
Yeah. So Jeremy, so stoked to have you here with us. 7 long years is what you kind of hinted at there. 7 long years, but Briarcliff is back on the national schedule. What does this mean to you and your family?
It means a lot. I mean, we obviously have been with my daughter racing, with Kinsey Racing. We've been contesting the series here since 2018, running pretty much every round. So it's kind of cool to be able to get the race back and for her to experience truly a home race. I mean, she lives 800 feet from the track, so it's pretty awesome. And I've been riding and racing a long time. And it's a race that's kind of near and dear to my heart. So it's really cool. It's just really cool.
Right. Yeah. Of course it is. And I've always said this. I know that I'm pretty sure that this is a conversation you and I have had, in person with each other, but something I kind of wanted to touch on. And I've always said, going to the iconic big name tracks is all fine and good. But what's much more important and meaningful to me is racing at ATV friendly tracks that are truly happy to have us. Well, you guys, like you just said, are ATV people. You and your daughter both race the series. So I love the fact that we're going to what is truly a track owned by an ATV family. I love that thought.
Yeah, it's awesome. You can kind of tell places we've gone, the places that really want you there. Mm-hmm. And it definitely helps knowing that promoters care about you coming in, they welcome you in. A good example is Jeff Cernix at Pleasure Valley. He wants us there. There's no doubt. And there are other tracks that want us there, but he stands out in my mind as when you come in, he welcomes you in. and he wants you there. And it helps. It helps the whole mindset for the weekend, knowing you're welcome there.
Exactly.
So I think that helps us, Briarcliff, in terms of, we want the racers to come. It's important to us.
Of course. Yeah. As a racer, as a rider, as an athlete, as as ATV motocross enthusiast, when you go to tracks where you get that vibe that they are truly grateful to have you there, it changes the whole experience as an ATV rider, racer, family, whatever. So for the last 7 years, when you went to these, ATV national events after hosting your first one, have you kind of like seemed like acted like a sponge and tried to soak in, kind of like what each promoter does as you go to these tracks? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. And, that's kind of been my little advantage to being last, especially this year.
Okay.
I've really taken notes and pictures, and I stopped short of bringing the measuring wheel, but I really kind of looked at how each track did staging, and not that I thought we didn't do it right, but I really paid attention this year more than anything. So you start to pick up on little things that sometimes racers wouldn't even notice.
Of course, you look at things differently than I do. As a promoter, you're paying attention to way more stuff with everything that goes on at a racetrack than I am as a racer.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there's you'll probably notice things that you're like, oh, they're doing that like Sunset, or they're doing this like Redbud. We paid attention. We're in a pretty good position, I think, because we've seen, 8 rounds for amateurs so far, up to this point. And I've seen kind of the good and the bad. And I'm almost able to learn from the mistakes they may have made inadvertently or by accident, or who knows. But so I'm pretty lucky there that I'm able to get that experience alongside watching my daughter race.
Of course. And I know that you've been, really waiting for this opportunity. So I know that you want to make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. So that makes sense to me for sure. Tell me about that 2014 event. I know, you had told me, like I just hinted at, that you had learned some things maybe in that experience, and obviously the time since then, that you knew you would do a little differently this time around. What can you tell me about that?
Well, in 2014, that was the first year we ran that event and an area qualifier for the Loretta Lynn program. So, looking back, we were somewhat green to running the bigger races. And since then, we've ran, I think, 5 or 6 area qualifiers, and we ran a regional this year for MX Sports.
Okay. Every
Every time you run a race, whether you're racing or promoting, you learn something. If you don't learn something, you're not paying attention.
Right.
In 2014, we learned the track can get fast, and the riders are going to push the envelope, and that's not a derogatory thing. That's a fact. So us redesigning the track and looking at ways to make it flow safely, we're going to try to slow it down some, even from the weekend practice we just had. We're bringing in some more mulch and sawdust and sand, and we're going to mix it in and try to keep it loamier. So it doesn't pack in and dust up quite as bad. So track design, track prep, and just organizational stuff you pick up over the years. Just ways to organize the racers so the weekend flows, and it seems like an event, not just a race for points.
Sure. And that makes sense to me. You're kind of hinting at, I know that, there was some accidents and injuries and stuff that happened, years ago when we came to your track in 2014 there. It really seemed like to me, though, from the outside looking in, and I was racing at the time, I was racing the pro class at the time, but it just seemed like all the stars aligned in the worst way. and things just happen. I mean, that's how I evaluated it. I didn't think, I mean, the track seemed totally safe to me. I loved my time on the track. I had a blast. It was the first time that I had ever been there. It just seemed like it was by chance almost that things just went the way they did. I didn't think that it was a representation of your track or the way you hosted us or anything like that.
I think some of that's true. It was like just it seemed like the world was just kind of crumbling a little bit. I know because I do the accident report for most of the area qualifiers we've had.
Okay.
In those 5 or 6 qualifiers, I'm almost sure we have not had, if you add them all together, we had more medical runs on that ATV National than we did all the AQs. So which is odd. I mean, it seems like that's an extraordinary amount of runs. So probably a combination of everything. It's just kind of the way it went.
Exactly. It wasn't something I necessarily planned on touching on, but I thought it was worth saying that I think it was just, again, it was like a terrible combo, but it all just aligned that way. It wasn't anything that you guys did or anything that could have been controlled anywhere else. It was like an anomaly. And over the course of the last couple of years, Jeremy, you and I have come to know each other a little bit, from podcast stuff to just being at the races and following you and your daughter, all that stuff. But even dating back before that, I wanted Briarcliff back on the schedule. That's something that my family and I had a number of conversations with people out there in your area that I wanted to see Briarcliff back on the schedule, knowing that you guys were ATV people. But also that, I thought that your track was a blast back then. I know it's a little bit different now, but still the dirt, the obstacles, the location, it's simply perfect for ATVs. That's how I've always thought about Briarcliff.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the track that weekend in 14. I actually raced one of the vet classes. Tried to. I was so beat down and tired, I just kind of rode around. But and that's another advantage I think I have is I ride my track. That helps tremendously to know and feel what the riders are seeing and feeling when they're racing and riding. The track's totally redesigned from 14. It actually is almost 90% reversed from that track, and the only part that is remotely the same is the triple jump in the center. The starts moved, so it's been a kind of a challenge this year to get it dialed in, but I think we're getting pretty close. I'm pretty happy with it here the last couple of times I've raced it.
Man, the videos I've seen make it look incredible. And kind of touching on the Ohio area there, that's a hotbed for ATVs, a lot of ATVs in the Ohio area over by you guys. So it makes perfect sense to have a race over there. I've always thought that. It feels like the series should always have a race in Ohio, just with the ATV presence over there. In fact, you guys had an open practice this past weekend and a bunch of guys came out for that, right?
Oh yeah, we had quite a few. At one point in one of the practice sessions, we did kind of a Pro-Am A level practice, and then we had like a BC level big quad practice group. And at one point, I think I counted about 11 current or past national champions in that group.
Wow.
There's some really fast guys. Right off the top of my tip of my tongue, I'm thinking Bryce Ford, Cody Ford, Zach Decker, Dane Molander, some fast 250 kids, Joey Norris, Noah Arnall, Mason Jackson.
Wow.
Mason's sister Natalie, my daughter. There's just a bunch of some fast vet guys, Brian Jenkins, Troy Mercer.
Sure.
I'm sure I'm missing a few, but there was a really good sample of ATV motocross here last weekend.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of notable names there. Can you give us any insight for digging deep ATV MX fantasy purposes? Any riders that were looking extra quick out there? I'm sure the Ford brothers and some of those guys for sure. Any insight there?
absolutely terrible at fantasy. But my gut, just based on some of the pros I've seen ride this year, not necessarily over the last weekend.
Okay.
Joel's been here. He looks really fast. Brandon Hogue. And of course, I think we know this is kind of a Hogue style track.
It is. Yes.
Hoagie looks great. And actually, this is where he unveiled, he got his surprise Yamaha was coming here to ride. And Timmy pulled it out of the van. And I was actually there when he got to see it for the first time. So,
oh, wow.
He looked good on it right off the rip. I mean, he like lap one, he looked at home on it. So I wouldn't bet against Brandon Hogue here.
You know what? He's one of the guys. And obviously we know that Joel is, I'm sure he's going to want to go out with a win and all that stuff. But Brandon is a guy that I have circled as somebody to watch because like you said, that's a very Brandon Hogue style racetrack. And I just have this gut feeling that it could be his weekend. I know he's a little irked by Casey saying that he was overtrained on the last episode. And obviously he doesn't feel good about the way that first moto went down at Loretta's, or I guess either of them, where he got the whole shot and had to deal with some things there. So I think he's going to be a guy to watch for sure. Talking about the national weekend upcoming, then I know you got all kinds of exciting activities planned. Fill us in on some of that.
Oh man, there's so much stuff. I had to write it down so I didn't forget some of it.
Perfect.
But on Friday, some point during practice, I think about 11:30 is what I got penciled in for now. We're going to do we've done these in the past for other friends we've lost or fallen riders. We're going to do a memorial lap for Michelle Jenkins. We're putting up like a new flagpole, a 60-foot tall flagpole, a big flag, and we're going to do a little memorial stainless steel thing to her memory. And we're going to do we've done this in the past with other riders. We're going to do like a single file lap around the track to kind of christen that or whatever. And Brian's been helping us with everything, approving everything. So I think it's the right thing to do, considering this was probably the most home-based track she had.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. That's special. I know this is kind of tying a bow on a season that we saw a lot of special things in Michelle's memory, which is very special. That sounds awesome. I'll let you continue to go on with your list, but just wanted to give you some credit there. That's really, really cool of you.
Oh, thank you. It's deserving. I actually raced with Michelle here and there, and fierce competitor doesn't even touch it. You're
right.
An awesome person. So
yeah.
Moving on with Friday night, we're gonna have movie night. I think a lot of people have heard about this, but we got a hold of Derek Getter with who made the Butter 2 movie.
Yep.
And he graciously sent us some copies of Butter 1 and Butter 2.
Okay.
And we got Thomas, Joel, Chad, Cody, and Bryce to all sign copies of those.
Okay.
And so we're going to do some games. I think we're going to do some extreme cornhole tossing type games Friday night for the kids to win autographed copies of the video.
Okay.
And then Debbie's going to bring up the popcorn machine, and we're going to play the movie out in the center deck area. We got a big inflatable screen.
Okay.
We're going to play the movie for the kids Friday night. That should be awesome. And then Saturday, we got pit quad racing and fireworks at night. And we're going to do a WMX autograph signing right before Pro Moto 1.
Okay.
That's something I feel like WMX doesn't get the credit they deserve.
Yep.
We're going to put them next to the tunnel entrance that we've installed, and people passing by to get ready for Pro Moto 1, if they want to stop and say, hey, grab an autograph, that would be awesome. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's something that we've touched on a little bit on previous episodes here. So that sounds incredible. How cool of a deal is that for those women's riders there, WMX class? Deserved credit for sure. So that's awesome.
And not to completely let a cat out of the bag,
Okay.
but on the event shirts, we will not feature just one rider, or even sometimes they've done 2 pros on a shirt.
Yep.
We've actually reached out to Moto Tees, and we will have a pro rider on shirts, but we'll also have a couple select colors where we're going to feature 2 WMX riders as well.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, how cool is
So,
that? Yeah. Okay. That's super exciting.
yeah.
I think that's a push that people have been making all season long, is to give a little more,
Yeah.
I guess credit isn't the word, but showcase the WMX riders a little bit. You know, those are our top female racers in ATV motocross. So that's awesome to hear. That's a great opportunity for them.
Yeah, I thought it was a neat idea.
It is.
I've been talking to them a little bit the last few rounds, and we had to get it approved, but
Okay.
ultimately they thought if I felt like it would be a good idea, they were going to let me run with it. So we'll see how it goes, but I think it's awesome.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
You know, I think we should include more riders on down, not just pro guys, and maybe like even eventually maybe even a standout pro-am kid or pro sport. I mean,
yep.
It really I think it's just a neat experience to have at an event. So
I've always thought, and with you, you know, you're a little more connected to the female side of things, obviously, with your daughter, you know, being an up and coming, you know, young female racer and stuff. But I've always thought that it's cool when track does something special. And I guess in the past it's been, you know, for a rider from that area or whatever. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a pro, for you to have that connection to the female side of things, and doing something special for that again is awesome. So I love to hear that. Is there any other special things going on that we need to touch on? I mean, you made a list. You're clearly making,
yeah.
You're making it an experience, like you kind of said, not just a points paying race, which is awesome.
I coined a phrase with some of our local promoting group here in Ohio years ago, that it's an event, not just a race. And I think that's kind of the mantra, or the what we're driving at here, is we're trying to add little things. Now, don't get me wrong, the track comes first, the racing comes first, the program comes first.
Yep.
But if we can do that and hit all these other little bullet points, now you have an event. The only other things outside of what I listed is we're still having the 2-stroke vintage class, the 4-stroke hybrid class. We'll probably stagger those more than likely.
Okay.
I think that's kind of neat because I come from that era.
Yes.
I raced those actually up until I got a Yamaha in like 2015 or something, and I raced hybrids clear to. I actually raced a hybrid in the last national.
Okay.
A Walsh CRF 450, an old school 250R style one. So
sure.
I think it's neat. I think it's neat to include those guys and showcase some history at the same time. So
it is. So this is new, this 4-stroke hybrid class. Tell us about that. Like, what are the rules? Does it have to be certain year? I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, not too many rules. We want to keep it as non-production as we can.
But
meaning
no
TRX.
You can't run a new style hybrid, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's the point is, I think the first rule I put out there to kind of head that off was no fuel injection.
Okay.
That'll limit it somewhat there, because I think they fuel injected started about 08, 09. And beyond that, it's no production based frames, no TRX frames, no YFZ frames. Okay. This is more of the older stuff, the 400EX frames, the 250R style frames, the Walsh, the older stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want somebody coming in there with like I've seen some of the TRX chassis that have a 330 250R engine in them. There's so many advances in that newer style chassis that it just wouldn't be fair.
Right. I knew I could picture it, but I wanted you to be able to tell our listeners, I guess, what this class was, because this might be the first that some people are hearing of it. So wanted people to be able to prep for that if they're going to be there. Okay, so we got kind of the lowdown on the event. You touched on this earlier in our conversation here, but you yourself have been racing all season long here in the 40 plus class. And I'm sure, when you're a promoter at an event this big, I'm sure it's pure craziness. I can't even imagine. But are you still going to find the time to line up in your 40 plus class? I'm sure. I hope so. You said that you were spent at that first one, but let me know, are you going to be able to line up, or is that not the plan?
Not this time. Okay. I am going to, because I really want this thing to go, and we're swinging for the fences.
I know you are.
I am going to sideline myself to just being part of the race promoting and the track crew this time.
Okay.
I've ridden my track a lot, and I've raced more this year, I think, than I have in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So I don't feel like I really want to race and need to race, and I want to be a promoter. First and foremost, this is my event, and I've actually even got someone taking care of Kenzie this weekend too, so I can really focus on issues and in having just come off that youth regional. Mm-hmm. And knowing that it's a similar experience as far as being a promoter.
Yep.
There just isn't enough time for me to race. It really isn't.
And that's what I was thinking. I mean, I assumed that I didn't know what your answer was going to be, but I knew that it would be, again, it would be crazy to try to do both. So that's why I wanted to ask. You're dedicated, which is awesome to hear. Like I said earlier, I know that you're trying to make this thing everything that you want it to be, and that dedication on your part is obviously apparent. So you touched on Kinsey, your daughter, who our listeners will recognize. They'll recognize her name because we've been trying to cover her a little bit here and there throughout the season. She looks like the next big thing on the female side of ATV racing, back-to-back national championships in the schoolgirl class, right? And she's in the mix for the women's 15 plus title as well, right?
Well, she needs a little help there. Okay. Madison, I think, got it almost locked up. I think Madison just has to show up and score a few points, or maybe she does have it locked up, and I'm looking at it wrong. But Kenzie's solidly in second. She had some opportunities this year to kind of play spoiler on a 250 in that class. And she won at least, I think, 3 of the Saturdays. And then we had issues on Sunday, and she would end up second to Madison. But she's done real well.
Yeah, she's been awesome all year long. So how awesome has it been to have that women's 15 plus class in there as well? I feel like that's an awesome bridge class for a girl like Kinsey.
I think 2 things. I think that class is an awesome stepping stone to WMX. It gives the girls kind of I want to call it a safe haven, but a place for them to race. Madison's fast. She's a top 3 WMX lady. And so you get a race against them and some of the regular gals, and it kind of gives them a taste of, okay, well, when we go to race Madison and Andrea and Shaw next year, this is what we're up against. So it's really good. I tell you another thing that I've read or listened out of other podcasts that I think you and Casey have touched on. Is the girls on these 250s now being able to run like the TRX chassis or the LTR chassis with a 250 motor in it. Now they're ready for that platform when we put the 450 in it.
Exactly.
And I think that has allowed Kinsey to really learn at a higher level faster. I mean, she's really putting it together pretty quickly.
Absolutely. It's setting these girls up for success like we've seen kind of in the 250 classes with the boys, and then seeing how successful they can be right when they get to the big class because they're used to that chassis. They're used to those bigger machines and everything. It makes so much sense. Yes, the women's 15 plus class seems like a great opportunity for growth for these young girls. And it also gives them like another class to race. I mean, they were like pretty limited before, where you'd,
Right.
even when you got to the women's class, you'd be racing the women's class, or what's called WMX now, and then you'd have to run the B class or the C class or whatever. Just an awesome opportunity for those girls. I love that they've brought that 15 plus class in there, and Kinsey will go to the WMX class next year, I'm assuming, and then she'll still be able to race women's 15 plus and WMX.
Correct, because the only stipulation there, I believe, is you cannot be a past champion in WMX and run women's open. So she'll be able to run both and gain experience in WMX. And I think maybe if she gets a podium or two next year and learns a lot, that'll be a good year. Women's open, obviously moving on to the 450. If we can transition quickly, I think she's a threat to win that class. We're just, but it's why you run the races, to see how they go. So we'll see what happens.
Right. She does look like, like I said, one of the next big things in women's ATV racing. So that's going to be really awesome to follow her growth in the years to come. She's put together, last year was really good in the schoolgirl class. She's been really good this year in both of those classes. And she seems like she's improving as a rider every year, which is fun to see. And having the finale at your home track literally has to twist the odds in her favor, at least a little bit at Briarcliff. So we're always cheering for her. And Jeremy, man, I'm so stoked that you guys have earned another crack at this thing. There's no doubt in my mind. You said you're swinging for the fences, but there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to knock this thing out of the park.
I hope so. It's kind of like being a racer. You got to have luck. You got to have finances. You got to have some knowledge. It's really kind of oddly similar to being a racer, being a promoter. You got to have all these things go your way. And hopefully the stars will align, because I know we've put in the time, we've put in the work, we've put in the thought. We've practiced our craft. We ran more races this year than we've ever ran in a year. I think we're ready. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. And what I sense from this conversation is how much this means to you. You kind of said it to us already, but just to know that ATV National means this much to you and your family, I think that that's going to stick with, obviously me, but all of our listeners when they go to the event and enjoy it and everything. They're going to know that you're rolling out the red carpet for the ATV Nationals, which is awesome. And we're grateful that we're going to a track with a promoter like you, Jeremy. So that's awesome. Do you have any last words for racers and families as they head to Briarcliff for the final chapter of the 2021 season?
Yeah, I wrote something down here. I think they ought to come in with an open mind and have fun. Because that's really what this is all about.
That's what we do.
I know people get bogged down in points and got to win and, got to look good, but you got to enjoy it too. This event is meant to be enjoyed. Take it in. Don't, these things don't seem like they come around very often. So, we don't know if we'll get another one next year. It's not been discussed. We don't know if we'll get one 2 years from now. So, this is, as you've said before, this is our Super Bowl. So enjoy it.
It's awesome. You're exactly right. That's why we do this. We do it because we love it. We do it to have some fun, and it's the last hurrah of 2021. So I think that people should be able to enjoy it and cherish it that much more because it is the last one. You're the man, Jeremy. Congrats again on obviously this opportunity. Obviously I would assume that it increases your odds to get another one, get, more going into the future. If you guys are able to knock this out of the park, like I assume is going to happen here. So good luck with everything, and looking forward to a stellar weekend in Nashport, Ohio.
Thanks a lot, Cody. We'll do the best we can.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Jeremy. That's Jeremy Osborn, owner of Briarcliff himself, brought to you by DP Brakes, available at your local dealer or www.dp-brakes.com. Jeremy, thanks again, buddy. Briarcliff, here we come. As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to ImpactSolutionsATV.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DIGGINGDEEP20. The Digging Deep ATV MX podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes, a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology. DP has been dominating the ATV world for decades, supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. 2021's impressive lineup includes Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli of the Phoenix Racing Team, myself, Cody Jansen, and my back-to-back national championships, Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Gennusa, Wesley Wolf, and many more, including all of the top 14 GNCC Series pros, led by the champ Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, and Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on the top of the podium. Available at www.dp-brakes.com, purchase at your local dealer, or message the show for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. 15 years into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back with us and continuing to make huge waves in the ATV world. For the second consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for some of the fastest riders on the planet. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to Factory43ATV.com to see their full line of products available for all makes and models. Want to be just like Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli, riding with Factory 43's industry-leading products? Head over to Factory43ATV.com today. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC has been supplying riders with aftermarket components from the industry's top brands for over a decade. With over 80,000 products in stock for your ATVs, UTVs, metric and HD motorcycles, dirt bikes, and snowmobiles, Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC can tend to all your power sports needs, from hard parts to riding gear. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads also offers hard-to-find used parts for your vintage dirt bike, ATV, three-wheeler, or snowmobile. Use discount code ATVMX at www.btqllc.com for 10% off of orders of $100 or more. We're grateful to have Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC digging deep with us. Thank you, BTQ LLC. We are proud to be partnered with Gripped Gloves. Gripped is an ATV rider-owned and operated brand with the rider in mind and the goal of keeping costs affordable. The Michigan-based family operation recognizes riders' desire to showcase their identity. Owner David Payne's love for eccentric colorways and crazy patterns shows in his product, something not often found in the work of big manufacturers. Here to push stereotypes and limitations, Grip's drive is to produce a glove with cool colors and designs that won't break the bank. With comfort and quality as key motivators, the family affair is constantly working on the next more innovative and improved glove. Get a grip on life, join the Gripped movement, because no one wants a bland glove. Check them out today at grippedgloves.com. That's GRIPT gloves.com, and use discount code DIGGINGDEEP10 to save at checkout. Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by the 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. All right, guys, this next guest is working to fill a major void in the world of motocross, brought to you by Namura Technologies. Check out Namura's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits at Namura.com. Say hello to Mike Daniele from Integrated Financial Concepts. Mike, welcome to the podcast, man.
Cody, thank you very much for having me. And while we're on the subject of thank you for everything you do for the sport, between the show, the fantasy. It's awesome. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that, Mike. So regular ATV motocross goers would recognize you because you've been a fixture at the racetrack with your buddy Nick Gennusa for years.
Yeah, it's funny when you and I started talking at Redbud this year, we started having a conversation. We felt like we knew each other, but we've never met face to face before. It was kind of like a long distance thing. But yeah, I've been around the sport of ATV motocross since 2010. That was actually the first race that I went to with Nick. For those of you who don't know or have never seen me before or seen Nick before, I'm normally within arm's reach of him, especially at the track. But we've been best friends since the fourth grade. And the first race I ever went to was Loretta's in 2010. So yeah, I've been around it for a little bit, and the opportunity came up over the course of the off season to be a title sponsor of Nick's program, kind of doing with the stuff that we did with him personally. We thought it was a great opportunity on both ends. And here we are today.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into some of this stuff. One thing I want to touch on, I guess maybe I've never had this opportunity to say it on the podcast before. So Nick and I had raced each other for, a lot of years in Pro-Am and in Pro and whatever. Fierce competitor, right? The one thing I will say about Nick is he might be the most grateful rider that there is for what Digging Deep is doing for the sport. He's went out of his way. He's so pleasant to work with and podcast stuff. He's grateful. It seems like all for all the coverage that we're doing for him and other guys and stuff. So I just wanted to take this opportunity. I know like you're best buddies with him, to just say Nick is so grateful and so appreciative for what we do. And that means the world to me. So I just wanted a chance to say that because working with him for Digging Deep stuff has been awesome.
Yeah, he's really, I would say, a great ambassador for the sport. I mean, we were just talking recently, I think it was actually at Redbud as well, just having like a rough day and nothing goes according to plan, but still being there for the kids, still showing up for the autograph signings. And the same thing at Unadilla, having a blow up in the second moto. He still goes through and he still does that. And I told him, I was like, man, I don't know how you do it, because if I was you, I'd be fuming. Just leave me alone. Lock me in the motorhome. But like I said, kudos to him for doing what he does. I would accredit him for being an awesome ambassador of the sport, and looking forward to seeing what he does moving forward.
Oh yeah, he's a pro's pro. So Integrated Financial Concepts, tell me more about it and the motocross friendly life insurance that you guys are pushing right now. This is something that so many of us probably know. has been basically unheard of until now. This motocross-friendly life insurance. Tell me about the whole spiel.
So Integrated Financial Concepts is our brick and mortar. The office you kind of see behind me, or for the listeners who can't see it, the office that I'm sitting in right now, out of Red Bank, New Jersey. We started title sponsoring Nick Gennusa's racing program this year. And to kind of go back from the beginning, we launched this initiative called Safe2Race and Safe2Ride. So whether you race, whether you ride, this coverage is applicable to you. And kind of the catalyst of where it started in the beginning was a local, pretty well-known BMX rider who sustained a serious injury, and pretty soon after that started to post stuff for crowdfunding to help offset the medical bills, loss of income, so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, with what we offer here with our life insurance with living benefits, and for the listener who doesn't know, pretty much what that means is it's life insurance you don't have to pass away to use. And we'll get more into it, I'm sure we will, throughout the duration of this interview here. But going through and talking about things like chronic illness or critical injury and critical illness, the big ones that I go through and I point out, God forbid, things like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or really in this application that we're talking about, chronic illness. If for some reason you can't do 2 of the 6 listed activities of daily living, you can turn on your life insurance policy and use a better portion of that to take care of yourself while you're still living, to offset those medical bills, loss of income, so forth. So that's really where it started. And it started early last year. Nick approached me and was like, hey, with this facility, with my own property, my own life, I'm looking to get coverage and I want to talk to you, considering this is what you do for work. And I didn't have a clear answer for him, because going through and meeting with the people that I meet with on a regular basis, and for those of you who don't know, when you go through and you fill out a life insurance application, there's a questionnaire that goes along with it. One of the questions that you have to answer, which is pretty much, as we talked about, the extreme sports questions. Mm-hmm. Do you participate in any type of racing, scuba diving, aerial sports, mountain climbing, base jumping? And it's a yes or no question.
And that's typically, Michael, where it all goes bad for me, or most of us.
Exactly. Because what are your options? You have one of 2 things. You can lie and say that you don't do it when you really do. Or if you answer truthfully and say yes, you run the risk of possibly not getting coverage. Or you just throw your hands up and say, look, I'm not going to get coverage. I race, I ride. Mm-hmm. This is useless.
Yeah, which is for the listener who hasn't went through this, which is exactly what happened to me. I've either stopped when I got to that, knowing what was going to happen, because previously to that, every time I had clicked yes, it was an automatic denial. So go on.
Yeah, so we really worked pretty vigorously over the last year, myself, my managing directors, the underwriters, all the way up through the company. And I said, what if we go through and if we answer this question, yes, can we still provide coverage? And the short answer to that was yes. And not only are we going to offer the coverage as a whole, we're also going to offer the living benefits. And at that point, my mind blew apart. I was like, holy cow, everyone needs to know about this. Because if you're going to participate in these adverse risks or sports, you might as well have the proper coverage to go through and do so.
Yes.
So that's really what we're trying to go through, spread this message of safe to race, safe to ride in the industry, and just kind of spread the awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So many, and I believe they say it even like in our Saturday morning riders meeting or whatever, they talk about that you should have life insurance. If you don't have insurance, you shouldn't be on the racetrack. You're kind of filling some of that void. What makes you guys, I guess, able to do that when so many people can't? I mean, what makes you guys different?
What's interesting about it, and it's a great question, I think it comes down to the company. Now, I have the ability to go through and talk with any insurance company that's out there.
Okay.
I choose to talk about one company in particular, the National Life Group, because I believe, and it kind of shows on paper as well, that they do this concept the best. Now, for most of the listeners that's listening right now, you've probably never heard of the National Life Group, but it's so crazy because they're a 167-year-old company. But the big thing, what makes us different and probably why you've never heard of them, we don't have a stadium. We don't have a blimp. There is no commercial. All that money that was spent or that could have been spent to do those things and to get our name out was reinvested back into the company and talking about these living benefits. And what makes it really unique is these living benefits are offered for both term policies and permanent policies, or things like whole life or universal life or index or fixed universal life. The list goes on and on. We can get more in depth with that depending how far into the weeds we want to go. But that's the really big thing. And kind of the last thought I'll leave with that is there are other companies out there that do offer living benefits, but it's kind of like options on a car is a good analogy that I'll give to the listener. If you want the car with the leather interior, the sunroof, the premium sound system, it takes the sticker price of that car and costs it to go up and up and up. With what we're talking about here, this is what's offered on the base model policy when it comes to, like I said, talking about things like term or even permanent policies.
Okay. So in person, you and I went over some of that stuff a little bit. And maybe this is the best time to do that.
When it comes to the policies, we'll start off by talking about a term policy.
Okay.
A term policy, to the listeners, it's like car insurance. You pay for it and you hope you never have to use it. And as the name suggests, it covers you for a portion of your life. Typically, it's a 10-year, a 15-year, a 20-year, and a 30-year term. So for example, let's say if you're going through and you're paying $50 a month, hypothetically speaking, and you have $500,000 and it's a 20-year term and you got it at age 40. From 40 to 60, you're covered for $500,000.
Okay. As
soon as you turn 61, and if you don't convert it over, you have $0 of coverage. And additionally, on top of that, that money that you put into it over the course of those 20 years strictly went towards the cost of the insurance. Now, on the flip side of it, when we're going through and talking about those permanent style policies, the main thing, what makes it different is you own it for life. It's never going to expire. And for this space in which we're going through and talking about, I mean, I'm trying to think of the youngest class of racers. Was it 4 to 850s?
Yeah, 4 to 6, 4 to 8, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So for those individuals, and they're not going crazy fast, but if a parent is listening to the show and they want to provide coverage to their kids, they're not eligible for the term policies. You have to be above the age of 18. So that's where you're going to fall into this permanent style policy, which is good because the kids can use that as almost like a savings account. Because going back to the same example, let's say you're using $50 a month, and now let's say your coverage is $250,000. It's a little bit less, and that's because of that guarantee that the insurance company has to pay out that benefit. But then also, too, on top of it, a portion of that $50 that you're spending on a month-to-month basis, a portion of it goes towards the cost of the insurance, a portion of it builds a tax-free cash value inside of it. So those are kind of like the two, I break it down into a T-chart for people when I go through and do it, but those are the two main types of policies that I talk about with people.
Okay. And have you been able to pick up some clients already in our, ATV motocross community? You've been, pushing this thing since the off season pretty much. Have you been able to pick some people up in this space?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm proud to say, as of right now, because there's still stuff that's pending, we provide coverage to 3 of the top 5 pros right now.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of stuff that's still pending with that. There are other people that we're trying to pick up along the way. But if you go through and look down the gate of the pros, there's 16 to 17 of them on a weekend. That's like, it's cool for us. A lot of those guys are my friends. So it's nice to provide that coverage and peace of mind to them, their spouse, their family. But the big thing that we're really trying to get involved with is the amateurs. And we're slowly starting to do that. We've gained a lot of traction with the jersey giveaway that we're doing with Nick Gennusa, and we can touch upon that a little bit later of how we're going through. All right, well, I'll kind of go into it really quick. To get entered for this giveaway, we're asking people to give us some basic information. And in addition to being entered for the giveaway, they're also getting what we're referring to as a soft quote. So they can see what it's like to be safe to race or safe to ride. And we've gained a lot of traction with that. We've also started to work with a lot of businesses in the industry which has been pretty cool, helping them do their business insurance, their payroll, their employee benefits, their HR, a lot of the stuff that you would never think to pick up really at a motocross track. But in our umbrella or span of work that we cover with IFC, these are all the different things we have the capabilities to help people out with.
That's so special. You've been around it long enough to know that when a new brand, company, new people kind of come into a space, the industry kind of flocks to them and, checks them out and will support this new company that comes in if it's worth it. Obviously what you guys are doing, because this life insurance thing, like I said, is kind of something that everybody struggles with. Everybody in this space has struggled to find companies that are willing to work with them. So to come into this space is awesome. That's why it was important to me to try to help you gain more brand awareness in this space. Let listeners know that there's an option out there for life insurance that, like you said, you don't have to lie about, you don't have to risk, getting denied, all these things. So that's why I really wanted to get you on here for this conversation. So let's use myself as an example, Michael. I have life insurance right now, but I'm not necessarily happy with it. I know I told you this in person, but it's more, I pay monthly for this thing, but it's mostly catastrophic. Like the only way it's going to really help me out is if I'm in a catastrophic situation, probably life or death, stuff we don't like to talk about, but life or death in the hospital for some time. That's what I'm working with right now. So I'm not necessarily happy with it, and I'm interested in possibly making the switch over to you guys. Where do I start? Kind of give me and give the listeners, I guess, a course of action, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point to bring up. And to kind of go back to it really quick, again, thank you for having me on the show, because to go through and to spread the awareness like we've had, it's a little bit tough. I mean, the term flock to, I would love to see that at every race, but also too, we're talking about the worst case scenario that could happen, crashing. And in this case, severely crashing or life threatening. It's not really a fun topic you want to have at the track. So to be able to go through on this platform to spread the message, like I said, thank you very much again for that.
But now, the one thing that we talked about at the racetrack, Mike, was it's like, how did you say it? It's something that you don't know you need until it's too late or until you truly need it. So this is really covering your ass. Like that's what this is. It's finding, not finding yourself with your pants down, basically.
Pretty much. I think the analogy that I gave you is, if we were standing outside your house and it was on fire and I offered you fire insurance and it's like, well, how much do you want? And you're going to say, well, give me as much as I can get because my whole house is on fire. You're not going to say, well, you know what, give me just enough to cover the garage, because that's where the important stuff is. Forget the rest of the house.
Right.
And that's really what we're trying to go through and do here is there are solutions that are out there and they've done great up until this point. But what we're trying to offer here is a proactive solution. Now, to get back to your other question of what's the call to action, how do we start this process? To be honest, just reach out to me and we can go through my contact information. But to sit down, we're offering free consultations to everyone in the ATV motocross space, whether it is to go over the life insurance with living benefits that we're talking about, whether it is to go over their own business policy, whatever it might be. We are here as a resource to you guys to be used free. You take up my time, please. I want to sit down. I want to talk with you guys, but to go through, have the information readily accessible. If you have your policy binder, which kind of goes through and outlays what you have. And like I said, I work with all companies that's out there. So as great as it would be to have riders covered under the National Life or the Safe2Race umbrella, I'm not going to turn someone away from a policy or product they already have if it doesn't make sense to them. But for me to go through and to give the best response back, I need to kind of get into the weeds of it. So like I said, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll go through, we'll review it. And like I said, we're going to go through some personal or some deep information. But again, I love to speak in analogies. If for some reason you hurt your ankle at the race, for example, let's say that, they don't just rush you into surgery, put screws, put plates and stuff like that. No, they send you through an MRI. They send you to an X-ray. You talk about, does it make sense to do surgery or can it be fixed with rehab? That's really the process of what we're going to go through. I'm not going to say change what you got because it's not with me. I want to go through. I want to see what you have, see if it makes sense for the goals that you're trying to accomplish, your lifestyle, things like that, and really go from there and make a recommendation accordingly.
Yeah, you're trying to find a policy and everything that goes along with that fits the person. So that's that makes so much sense. And you're the kind of guy that I want on my side when I'm looking for something like that. So all sounds so great to me. Is there anything else that you want to touch on as far as that goes? Because I don't want to get too far into the weeds. I mean, those are conversations that somebody can have directly with you when they come to you, to kind of get the ball rolling on this stuff. But is there anything else that you want to touch on as far as integrated financial concepts goes?
I mean, we touched upon a lot throughout the course of this talk here. If anyone's curious in continuing the conversation, I'll be with Nick at Ohio for the last round coming up here in the next couple of weeks, which I'm looking forward to seeing how he does, seeing hopefully some of you guys roll by there. But if not, feel free. You can reach out to me via call, text. My cell phone number is 732-832-9828. Shoot us a DM, shoot us a follow on Instagram. It's at integrated_financial_concepts. And the last one, I promise, it's a long list, but probably the least amount of what people will use is you can reach out to me at my email, which is my last name, Daniele, DANIELE_Michael at nlgroupmail.com.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I think the timing really for this too, Mike, is something that makes so much sense because how it goes. You've been around Nick long enough that it feels like you're running on fumes by the time the end of the season comes. So in the off season, you're able to get all your ducks in a row. And I feel like that's the perfect time for people to truly think about this great option of life insurance that you guys are pushing.
Yeah, I think TDR put up a post the other day, Tim Detling over there, and he was like, "Hey, don't wait, like get going on your off-season builds now." And I was like, "That's such a great idea, like bring that up now as opposed to at the banquet when everyone's trying to scramble and get stuff together." Right. The same thing with this, and you can kind of put them hand in hand. Get a jump start on your off-season builds with TDR. I'll shout him out. He's a great guy. Or get started on your Safe to Race coverage for next year, because I know people are going to be riding over the winter, whether it's at their own place or down south for their winter. The sooner the better. Like I said, this is something that I hope no one has to use, but God forbid they have it if it was to happen.
Exactly. You don't want to wait until it's too late. Let's talk about Nick for a moment while I have you, because he's finally back in the top 5 in points. He's right where we've come to expect him to be, right where he's been each of the last 6 seasons previously to this one. But he's going to have to be on his game at Briarcliff to keep that spot, because here comes red hot Max Lindquist. He's only 2 points back now. It's going to make for an interesting finale for these guys.
Absolutely. It's one I'm really looking forward to. I was just with Nick earlier today. He's got that fire in his belly or that eye of the tiger. He's got the tiger on his arm, which I know he's pretty close with. Right. But he's ready. He's fired up. I'm going to drop some gates for him over the weekend, get him ready to go, and really looking forward to see him battling out with those guys. They're so close. That third place spot, and we could talk about it till we're blue in the face or we're beating a dead horse at this point, because we've talked about it all season long, or you in particular about that. But right. Bryce, Nick, Jeffrey, Lindquist, Hogue, like all those, it's so deep and it's so exciting to me as a fan of the sport to go through and watch. And like I said, Nick's my guy. I'm going to pull from him at the end of the day, no matter what. Of course. But as a fan, the racing is just unbelievable, and I'm so excited. And it sucks that the season's coming to an end. I wish it could be Supercross and just keep going like another 7 rounds or something like that.
Right. I know that battle for top 3, battle for top 5 has been about as gnarly as it's ever been. I mean, there's been times where like Nick's been the clear 4th guy, and that's just kind of where he's found himself. And every one of those races pushed for podium at times. But this year, I mean, you can't predict what's going to happen at these races. It's gnarly. I mean, he was runner up at the opener. He grabbed the second podium of his career there at Daytona. 4, top 5 finishes since then. But he, like I said, he's going to need to end the season with a bang to guarantee himself that top 5 spot that he's always been. Basically, the way to break it down is the guy that beats the other one between him and Max might very well be the guy that gets that top 5 spot. And I just can't imagine, I know Casey and I talked about this on the last episode, but I just can't imagine Nick not being in the top 5. Like, we've seen him there every single year. I just can't imagine it not happening, but it's going to be settled on the racetrack. It's going to be exciting to see.
It's absolutely going to be exciting to see. And now that I go through and I think about it, I don't think anyone kind of in that group, with the exception of Jeffrey, has been the Briarcliff since the series was there last time. And from what I've been told, is it's really nothing like what it was the last time the series was there, which is even more exciting because that's truly whoever is the best on next Saturday. That's what's going to be awesome to see. I'm really looking forward to it.
Exactly. Earlier in the episode, we talked to Jeremy, the owner of the track over there. And yeah, he said that things are very different. That the track is that much better now, having hosted that race 7 years ago, that over the last 7 years, they've been working to create a better and better and better racetrack for this ATV National. So that's going to be exciting. Can't wait to see how it all goes down. Mike, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I love what you're doing. I know how badly we need it. Like I've said, I mean, I've been denied health insurance an array of times, as soon as they found out basically what I do. So I love it. You're filling a needed void, which is why I wanted to share this stuff with our listeners. So I can't thank you enough for joining us, and glad that we could kind of play the role of help shouting you to the masses like you guys have been trying to do all season long.
No, I appreciate it. And if anyone's given thank yous here, it's me for you having me on this show to share this time with your listeners, to get some good information out. And like I said, at the end of the day, this is my job. It's what I do for work, but I could care less about anything else besides providing safety and peace of mind to the riders, because it's something that myself, Integrated Financial Concepts, believe is as pivotal of a safety feature going forward with racing that I really could argue can go back to the invention of the helmet. So we're really looking forward to this. I thank you again for your time, and look forward to possibly helping some people out here.
Awesome, man. Thanks again. That's Mike Daniele with Integrated Financial Concepts, brought to you by Namura Technologies. Visit namura.com for Pistons with an Attitude. Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate everything you're doing for the sport as a whole, pal. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you very much, Cody.
See you, pal. Man, are you psyched for the season finale now or what? I sure am. Great show tonight. Now I'll be able to sleep at night knowing that everyone knows all the storylines and battles to watch for at Briarcliff. Major thanks to tonight's guests, Gloop Mahey of RipitupFilms, Briarcliff's Jeremy Osborn, and Mike Daniele from Integrated Financial Concepts. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to our newest donor, Holly Trimble and the Trimble family. You guys absolutely rock. A special shout out to the Ford and Stanfield families. Thanks to our sponsors, CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. To get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. You can find them all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including Digging Deep shirts and hoodies, our Quad Guys Get Hot Chicks shirts and hoodies, back-to-back national champ merch, and more are all available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com. If you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click that Buy Me a Coffee button. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. You can call our voicemail line anytime, 920-569-3519, and follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, Digging Deep ATVMX fantasy info, and more as we head to the season finale. Thanks so much to everyone playing ATV Fantasy. It's made this season an absolute blast. And a reminder one last time that lineups do not roll over, so head over to ATV Fantasy right now to select your team and lock it in up to 1 hour before Moto 1 at Briarcliff, so 12:30 local time, Eastern time. As for the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links, and discount codes, our new show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend, please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. Guys, next time we talk, we'll be wrapping up the final round of 2021, and it'll be the off season. Where did the time go? But we sure appreciate you spending it with us. And with that, for Gloop Mahey, Jeremy Osborn, Mike Daniele, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to the #1 podcast in ATV racing, 2 million downloads and counting. Until next time, thanks for joining us and digging deep with the stars of ATV motocross. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad dudes are freaking nice.